I'm Dr. Alyssa Reingold. I'm a clinical psychologist from the National Mass Violence Victimization Resource Center, and in partnership with the STEM Center for Strength, I'm here to present to you on the topic of living a meaningful life. So, as I get started in my presentation today, I do want to first acknowledge several folks in the field that I'm going to be leaning on their work as we talk about living a meaningful life. So the concepts I present here to you today are the works from Dr. Steve Hayes and Russ Harris. So the meaning of life is really to live a meaningful life. We need to first identify and know what matters to us. What are our values? What are what gives us a sense of purpose? What gives us a sense of meaning? So, what do you want your life to be about? What do you stand for? What truly matters in the big picture? Before we can start living a meaningful life, we need to clarify these values. We have to clarify what gives us meaning and purpose. That's really an essential step towards creating a meaningful life. And then from there, we can choose our life direction with intention. So, our values is kind of like a compass that provides direction and guides us on our journey. What gave me meaning and purpose now, today, might be different from what gave me meaning and purpose a year ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And so sometimes our values shift over our life, and that's okay. And sometimes we just go along on autopilot, just day to day, letting sort of our emotions, letting the experiences, letting our day to day expectations sort of guide us. And then we end up living sort of an unfulfilled life. And so it's important every now and then to just take pause and clarify, what is my values now? What gives me a sense of meaning and purpose? And then from there, you can then start living a meaningful life. So I'm going to show you a few videos as we go along here. Hopefully it works. uh, just to demonstrate some concepts.
Are like flowers that like to be picked every day. Values are like an inner compass. They are what matter to you deep in your heart. The person you want to be. The way you would like to treat yourself. The way that you would like to treat others. The things that you feel passionate about. There are no right or wrong values, just as there are no right or wrong flowers. Values are what matter to you, so try picking several values and use them throughout your day.
So values can be, when we try to pick values, we're going to pick them across different domains in our life. So we're gonna pick values. We can think about and clarify our values in the areas of work or education. We can clarify our values in our relationships. We can clarify our values in leisure activities. We can clarify our values in our health and our spirituality. And so there's different domains you can even kind of create and then prioritize where you want to focus your attention. Values are sort of self-chosen qualities of purpose, of purposeful action. So values are not goals. We live in a very goal-oriented world, right? I've got my sticky notes with my checkoff box and my long-term goals and my short-term goals, and that's okay to have goals, but values are different. So we're not sort of clarifying what our goals in life are. We are clarifying kind of what's just generally important. Um, Values aren't feelings. They're not outcomes. Values are not how we treat people, or they're not internal states. So it's not I value being happy. So it's not about a feeling. And they're not goals, as I mentioned before. They're sort of qualities of purposeful action. And then when we create these values, then we can then figure out intentional actions that are linked to these chosen values that we have. So I'm going to show you one more video that talks a little bit about the distinction between values and goals, because sometimes we get caught up in more of a goal-oriented approach.
Tells us the way to achieve our goals: get that great job, earn that money, get a good body, find a partner, have happy, healthy kids, have a big house, have a nice car, have holidays. Goal, 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 goal. And it's true that if you do actually manage to achieve these goals, then there is a little moment of joy and happiness. But how long does it last? How long before you're looking at the next goal, and then the next goal, and then the next goal? And as we live our life trying to constantly strive to achieve these goals, one after the other after the other, how tiring and exhausting does it get? Is this you? There is a radically different way to live your life, which is a life based on values, a values-focused life. It's like two kids in the back of a car, and it's a 3-hour car journey to Disneyland. And the first kid is totally goal-focused. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? How much longer? Are we there yet? This journey of frustration, it's all about the goal. The second kid is values-focused. He's got the same goal. He wants to get to Disneyland, but he's also in touch with his values around curiosity, adventure, having fun. So he's looking out of the window, playing I Spy with My Little Eye. He's counting all the, the interesting farmhouses that he sees on the way. He's spotting interesting farm animals, cows and sheep. He's noticing different types of trucks and cars on the freeway. So he's actually appreciating the journey as he heads towards his goal. Now, they both reached Disneyland at the same time. They both had a fantastic time at Disneyland because they both got to achieve the goal. But the first kid had a journey of frustration. The second kid had a fulfilling, rewarding journey. Then on the way home, the first kid, are we home yet? Are we home yet? Are we home yet? All about the goal, all that frustration. Second kid's looking out of the window, noticing how the world looks different at night, spotting the lights in the farmhouses and the cat's eyes on the freeway. The car breaks down on the way to Disneyland. Now, both kids are really disappointed because neither of them achieved their goal. But the second kid at least had a fulfilling journey up until that point. Now, when the pickup truck arrives to tow them home, the first kid, oh, it's not fair. I want to go to Disneyland. How long before the car gets repaired? It's not fair. It's not fair. The second kid starts to notice how the world looks different when you're sitting in the front of a pickup truck high above the level of the rest of the traffic. So this is the very important distinction between the values-focused life and the goal-focused life. In the values-focused life, we have the fulfillment and satisfaction of living our values every step of the way towards our goals, the satisfaction of achieving our goals, and the fulfillment that comes of living our values even when we don't achieve our goals.
So you can kind of see the distinction there between values and goals. Are something we sort of check off, right, and look towards, and values are sort of that compass that guides us just in our day-to-day life. So at this point, I'm going to want you to sort of take pause, get your piece of paper out, and I want us to begin by thinking about sort of the big life looks like for you. What's important? What gives your life meaning? What matters most to you? So I want you just to go ahead and take pause and just, if you can, not think too hard about it, but just write down just concepts, values on your piece of paper in front of you. Just go ahead and whatever pops in your mind, just start generating a list of the different kind of characteristics, qualities, or things just in general in your life that matter to you, that gives you a sense of purpose. Just go ahead and just take a minute just to write those down. Perhaps you can say to yourself, I want to stand for what? What would you want to stand for in life? What does a big life mean to you? At the end of the day, what really matters most to you? Doing what, being what gives you purpose in life. So just take a minute to write that down. And for some people, that can be challenging. They'll say, I don't know, like I'm kind of feeling lost, and that's okay. These are sort of meaty concepts and just giving you some food for thought. And sometimes it takes a little while to come back to and really think about some of these things, and that's okay. Another approach that you could take as you're trying in your mind to clarify what gives you value, what gives you meaning. Let's imagine you're 80 years old and you continue living your life exactly as you do now. So, if that were the case, try to complete the following. I spent too much time, what? Too much time worrying, too much time on your phone, on Facebook, too much time watching TV, too much time feeling frustrated or angry. So for you do you feel like if you were to reflect back, what do you spend too much time? How about I spent too little time doing what? So you're 80 years old, you're living your life exactly as you are right now. How would you reflect back on you spent too little time doing what? Spending time with my kids, whatever it may be. What do you spend too little time doing? And then if I could go back in time, what I would do differently is what? And in answering those questions might help with this last one. Therefore, what do you want your life to stand for? Sometimes it's identifying what's going on now and figuring out, maybe there's certain things I want to do differently. And then what would that be? Sometimes I like to use these images to help yourself clarify values. And so this is a values tree that can help you think about how you want to understand your values. So the leaves and branches on this tree are things people see on the outside. They're pretty things on the outside, right? The trunk is our own thoughts, maybe about what people see or about our thoughts about who we are or who we want to be. Those are sort of our thoughts and feelings, our trunk. And they can kind of blow in the wind, right? Rustle those leaves and branches. But our roots, the roots of our tree are what people can't see at all. They are who we want to be. They're our values. That's what gives us strength. That's what needs to be watered and give nutrients, right, for our tree to grow. And so what are your roots? Sometimes we're just blowing in the wind and we need to kind of get better in touch with those roots. And when we clarify what gives us meaning, what gives us purpose, then we can create a roadmap at that point. So then we can identify the actions that we're going to engage in that's working towards those values. So the difference between actions and sort of committed actions is committed actions emphasize sort of process, not outcomes. So again, not goals, but the process. So we're working towards our values. We're never going to achieve our values, not check off, but we're going to look at our values, pause and reflect, and kind of write down what our intentions are. What are we going to do in honor of those values? So these are just sort of behaviors and actions, again, that honor our values. Now, as we create our roadmap, we're identifying those actions or identifying those behaviors you want to do on a daily basis, right, in honor of those values. But we also we're going to expect barriers, and then we want to develop in our roadmap strategies to manage those barriers. But in order to create strategies, we really have to expect and recognize what your barriers are going to be that are going to get in the way of our values, because working towards intention towards those is really hard to do. We're very well intentioned, and things can get in the way, and that's okay. We just need to identify what those things are going to get our way, so then we can create some strategies. That way we can stay focused on our on the direction. So I'm going to show you one more video. This one does not have voiceover. It's just some sounds with written words. So I don't want you to be concerned you couldn't hear somebody speaking. So once we clarify what is important to us, and once we map out committed actions towards these values, so that this is a stepped process. You're not going to do this all just in this time we're meeting here. So first, I'm going to have you take some time to clarify your values in different areas of your life, prioritize what's important, create your committed actions or what types of intentions you're going to work towards those. But then we got to expect we're going to hit barriers and struggles that get in the way of working towards those values. So it's like that storm in that video we just watched. We need to identify what is our storms. We need to expect that. We need to identify them. We need to acknowledge those barriers and sometimes even welcome them as we continue to move towards our value-driven behaviors. So just in that storm, in that video, on that boat, we're not just waiting for the storm to pass because it may return. We are going to welcome that storm, get wet, and still rudder our ship forward. Now, barriers could be internal thoughts and feelings. We often get in our own way when it comes to living a valued life. So I like to use sort of acronym, FEAR. Fears often gets in the way. It's often a barrier that gets in the way of our life. But fear stands for the F in fear stands for fusion. So we believe our thoughts and feelings are truth. That's what fusion is, and when we do that, and when that happens, those thoughts and feelings are us, and they prevent you from moving forward. So we don't want fusion to be a barrier towards your living a valued life. We want to recognize thoughts and feelings as just that. They're just thoughts and feelings. We need to welcome them, whatever they may say to us, and keep living our valued life. E in the fear acronym stands for excessive goals. Sometimes we try too much, and we try to set too many things on our plate, and we need to pretty much set realistic goals. So not try too much all at once because that could be a barrier, and then we don't do anything at all. The A in the fear acronym is avoidance of discomfort. So we sometimes need to be willing to tolerate distress and to sort of move through discomfort. As humans, we are sort of hardwired to avoid discomfort and negative affect. However, it's important to lean in to discomfort, to lean in to distress, as this path can kind of foster actually growth, change, and renewal. So we don't want avoidance of discomfort to get in the way of living our valued life. And the R in fear stands for remoteness from values. So sometimes we can lose touch with those deeper values that we have that underlie some of our goals, or sometimes we lean on other people's values for us. And then that's not very fulfilling either. And that can be a barrier in of itself. So we need to kind of check in and make sure our values are ours, and really want to understand the really deep down kind of what's important to us. So we identify our values, what gives us meaning and purpose. We clarify that for ourselves. We start to identify intentional actions that we're going to do each day, committed actions towards those values. So we're living each day a valued life. We're to acknowledge and recognize barriers and struggles that we can expect might get in the way of doing that. They could be our thoughts, our emotions, they could be too much expectations, they could be discomfort. Um, and we want to identify those, right? Acknowledge those and welcome them as we continue moving our ship ahead. I like to use this analogy, again taken from some other folks in the field, is you are like driving a bus, and you are driving your bus. You need to clarify where you want to drive your bus, right? Those are our values. Where are we going? Where are we headed? We're not just driving in circles or just driving down any type of road. We're driving our bus towards something, towards what gives us meaning and purpose. However, sometimes there's unwanted passengers that are coming aboard on our bus. And those passengers could be thoughts, emotions, urges. They could be real loud. And when a passenger steps on that bus, really loud thought, really obnoxious, what does our driver tend to do? Typically, the bus driver might tend to look at that thought, right? Start paying attention to it. Maybe it yells, shouts back at the thought or that passenger. Maybe it's trying to kick the passenger off the bus, right? As we're doing this, as we're tending to the loud passenger, what is happening to our bus? Well, it's not going anywhere. Maybe it's ditched on the side of the road. Maybe it's driving in circles. Maybe it's crashed on the side, right? Because we're tending to these passengers. And I'm wondering if it makes sense to sort of Ask the passengers to come on. Invite them on. Welcome aboard, passenger. Instead of trying to, tell me, well, Alyssa, I can't drive my bus unless you just get the passengers off, get these thoughts, get these emotions, whatever it may be that's getting in the way, get them off my bus. And what I'm saying is by doing that, that struggle is keeping your bus from going anywhere. What would it be like to invite those passengers on your bus? Say, come on board, have a seat. Yell as much as you like, be as obnoxious and loud as you like. Come on board, welcome them as just that, noisy passengers, and I'm still going to keep driving toward my value and just simply notice that the passengers are there, how that might be different. Again, maybe passengers try to get up, get out of their seat, trying to throw passenger, do all sorts of things. And as a bus driver, we need to stay in our seat and drive our value. We don't want to stop the bus, turn around, try to kick passengers off, throw them out, because it's just not going to work. And so, where do you want to drive your bus? What's the direction you're headed? What are the barriers? What are the passengers that might get in the way as you drive your bus? What can we do with those passengers? What can we do to manage, struggle with our thoughts um, as we are moving towards our values? Maybe you just need to gently welcome them. That may be the best plan of action as we kind of just continue to move towards our goals. All right. So hopefully I gave you a little bit of food for thought as far as kind of some ideas on how to live a meaningful life. Again, this isn't going to be kind of solved in this, half hour or so, but at least it gives you some roadmap of ideas of ways you can kind of move forward in your life. And so right now, get your pen and paper out, and I want you to just take a moment to write down on paper so it's clear to you. My name is, I value what? Identify one value right now in this moment that you identify as important. Maybe notice what's gotten in the way of living a meaningful life or what's gotten in the way of that specific value. And then from this point forward, I choose to honor my value by what? What are you going to do to honor that value? So I'll just throw an example out there for myself. It's a small one. I've got a number of different values in my life. One of them, though, my name is Alyssa, and I value eating healthfully. It's part of valuing my health to eat healthfully. The habit of snacking on junk food after dinner in front of the TV really has gotten in the way of living a healthy life. And so from this point forward, I'm going to choose to honor my value of eating healthfully by trying to grab a healthier snack in the evenings instead of reaching towards sort of the junk food. I'm going to try. So, what is it that you value? What's getting in the way? And what are you going to do this point forward to honor your value? I just want to highlight a few resources for you. If this kind of piques your interest a little bit and you want to do a little bit more reading on these concepts of living kind of a meaningful life and the life values, The Happiness Trap, Stop Struggling and Start Living by Russ Harris is a good start. He also has written another one, The Reality Slap, How to Survive and Thrive When Life Hits Hard, is really geared for when you've experienced adversities, trauma, stress. Um, how do you kind of wrap your head around that in order to kind of live a meaningful life? And the last one is Get Out of Your Mind and Into Your Life by Steve Hayes. Kind of helps you figure out ways to kind of get out of that struggle of emotions and to be able to stay focused on the course of living a meaningful life. Thank you for joining me, and I hope that gave you just a couple little ideas to help you live a little bit more of a meaningful life.